Carolyn Dube here. Oh, what's the play for today? Well, in today's video, I'm going to face some hard truths. I'm going to go on a bit of a colorful adventure, and I'm going to use some stuff up in my studio. Now, what I'm going to be using up is a box of stickers. Now, these things, I looked over and I saw them on the shelf, and I've seen them on the shelf for a long time. And even though they're easy to get to, they're well labeled, which when things are like that and I don't use them, I have to ask myself, why am I not using them? Am I hoarding it, or is there something else going on? And in this case, it was something else. The reason why I don't think it's hoarding, and by the way, I totally do hoard certain things, is because when I'm hoarding, it's something very precious. I want to use it, but I don't want to waste it. I want to save it for just the perfect project. It's got to be a good enough project for it. Those are the kinds of things that I'm hoarding. These stickers, I haven't felt that way about. If I had some way that I wanted to use them, I completely would. But the thing is the colors that are in them, the look of it, they just don't kind of go with the vibe of the things that I'm enjoying doing now. But that's an easy fix. If I don't like the color, if I'm not liking those kinds of things about them, I can change it. I've got paint, I've got other stuff. I can turn these into stickers that I'm going to enjoy using right now. And so I'm going to share with you in this video how I go about doing that. Ran into some practical questions about it. There were some decisions to be made, and I'm just going to share the entire process with you. The great big experiment of taking these stickers from scrapbooking 15 plus years ago into something I'm excited to use in my mixed media, my art journal, and my collaging, that kind of stuff. So I've got this sheet of word stickers, and it's very nice, but again, not quite the colors that I like using right now. So I'm simply going to put some paint on a brush, and I'm going to smear some paint on top of this. Now, a big practical question is, will the paint stick to this? And in this case, the answer is yes, absolutely. Now, will this be true for every sticker that I want to paint over? Probably not. One of the things that I have noticed when doing this is if it's a more of a matte sticker or a paper kind of sticker, it takes the paint really, really nicely. If it is more of a plastic kind of sticker, it's a very glossy one, the paint doesn't stick quite as well to it. That doesn't mean it won't stick to it, but it just doesn't take it quite as easily. Now for applying the paint, I'm just having fun, moving those colors around, dipping my brush in paint, and just letting colors be. The goal here is to just get some more of the kinds of colors that I like on top of these stickers. On the pink one, I just did a big solid field of color. But on this one, I'm going to put some shapes and different areas of color. It's not like there's any wrong way to do this. Oh, and by the way, that fancy tube that I'm using there for the yellow, that is one that I cut apart. Basically, I'd squeezed out all the paint that I could, and when a tube gets to that point for me, I simply cut the top off and then use my brush to dig in there and get every last little bit of color out of it. There are going to be multiple layers on these, and this first layer is all about just getting a base of colors that I'm excited to play with. My goal is not to cover the stickers completely, it's just to cover up as much as I feel like. So like on this set of stickers, and by the way, yeah, I've even used a couple of them, and I'm still going to paint over this. As I'm doing this, because I'm using yellow, which is a lighter color, and things usually show through with yellow from underneath, that's not a bad thing, because I like having a little bit of that interest, the words, the things from underneath there peeking through. And on this one, I am simply going to put one color on there, the yellow. That's it. Now there was one great big unknown for me. The excess around the sticker, the waste, do I leave it on there before I paint, or do I remove it before I add the paint? And so I decided to do a little test. On some of them, I'm going to pull it off like what I'm doing here, and on some, I'm not, and I'm going to see what happens. So here's a sticker just like the one you saw me peel that off of, where it's already been peeled off. So I'm putting paint on the stickers, and you can see the paint behaves a little differently on that waxy nonstick background. And what I'm testing here, because I don't know the answer yet, is it better for me to leave that excess around the stickers and add the paint, or should I remove it and then add the paint? So I'm going to try it both ways, and I'm just going to see which one comes out better. One of the drawbacks to using stickers that are 15 plus years old is sometimes they're not as sticky as they used to be. See how that one sticker started moving just because I was adding the paint there? Now, this is something that I do not fault the sticker companies for. I think it's very fair that they're not quite as sticky after this many years. The paint that I've put on here, this has covered up most of the sticker. There's a little bit of it peeking through, but a lot of the design has been covered up by the paint. But this isn't what I did for every set of stickers that I did the paint on. For this set, I really love the pattern that's on it, but it just wasn't colors that quite fit with what I like doing. So for these, I put a thin layer of paint on it because I want to add some of that bright color to it, but I'd also love to still see some of that pattern that's underneath there. So if you would like more of the pattern to peek through, just put a little less paint on there. Now I repeated this over and over again until all of my old stickers had a layer of paint on them. And the paper that was underneath there catching all the overpainting, I love that. So I'm setting it aside. It's a great piece of collage paper to use in the future. I'm going to use a gel plate to get some pattern onto these. And the reason why I'm using a gel plate with stencils is because it is the fastest way to stencil and I am incredibly impatient. So I've got a layer of paint spread onto that gel plate, and then I'm going to put the stencil where I want it to be and simply plop that gel plate on there. And did you notice how the gel plate kind of slid a little bit? This is extremely forgiving. That wasn't my intention. I didn't plan on it, but guess what? It's all just fine. I'm going to add some pattern down here to the bottom. So now I've got a quick pattern popped on there. Whenever I'm gel plating, I love to use every bit of the paint. I don't want to waste anything. So I'm going to take that paint that's on the plate and I'm going to plop it onto this set of stickers. And I am not really loving how that looks at the moment. But is that a problem or something I'm worried about? Nah, it'll be fine. I'll put more layers on top. And for this right now, what I'm doing is cleaning the stencil by simply putting it back onto the gel plate, transferring any loose paint onto the plate. And then I'm going to pop it back on here. I mean, I might as well double down on the ugly, right? But I'm really not worried about it being ugly because I know when I put more layers on it, it will change how it looks. On the last set of stickers, I covered the entire thing with this pattern. Here on this one, I'm just going to put it on part of it. I mean, after all, you can put the pattern on some of it or all of it. Now this stencil is one that I created for over at Stencil Girl Products, and it's called Squares Layer Me. And all of the stencils that you'll see me use in this video are also from Stencil Girl Products. Oh, and the reason why I'm pushing down on the gel plate a little bit more here than say on the others was because I felt like I didn't have quite as much paint on the plate. So that's why I was pushing it down a little bit more. I don't have another set of stickers that I want to use this color on. So I'm going to clean off my gel plate here just by pressing it down right on my background cleanup paper. And for the stencil, I'm going to plop it on there and just brayer over it. And that's going to clean the paint off of the stencil for me. Now this isn't going to get every speck and drop and bit of color off of it. So if you want every bit of color off of your stencil, then you might want to toss it in some water to rinse it off. But this for me is plenty good. Now stenciling and gel printing, they're very forgiving. On the last one you saw me put the paint on first. This time I'm going to put the stencil on the plate first, and then I'm going to add the paint on top of it. There is not a wrong way to do this, whether it's paint first or stencil first when you're gel printing. There is one thing to keep in mind if you're using words like what I am here, is when you put the stencil on the gel plate, the words are backwards. That way when you take the print, they're legible. And even though I know this, yes, I too have forgotten at times to do that, and it doesn't bother me because it just becomes another layer that builds in there. Now I'm going to live a little on the edge here with this yellow, and I'm going to take a risk during the cleanup phase with it. So hang in there for that. So stencil first, then the paint's going on this time, but guess what? Yes, you could do it the other way too. Again, not a wrong way to do stencils on a gel plate. Now, as I put this on here, I'm going to get some great color. I love it, but there's still plenty of paint left on that plate. So I'm going to just come down here at the bottom and put that on there. But there's still plenty of paint left on that plate. So what I'm going to do is just press part of the plate down so I can get some very imperfect ones, just adding little hints of the words here and there. And as I get near the end of this, there's less paint on the plate, so that means it's going to be a little bit softer for the words. They're going to have a little more of a ghost effect to it, which is great for building up background layers. So here comes the risky part, and this is cleaning off the stencil. There's all that wonderful paint on there. As I brayer it down here, if I leave it on there too long, it runs the risk of sticking to the stickers and lifting them up. So I'm hoping I'm going quickly enough and I have enough paint and I can just lift up the stencil and transfer that pattern. One of the big tricks to doing this is to go quickly because the paper can then stick to the paint and stick to the stencil. Now there is still a little bit of paint left on that stencil, and so I'm going to finish cleaning it off by transferring it onto another set of stickers here. And I'm not expecting it to be as bright as the last one just because there's less paint on the stencil. But I end up with a great background pattern added on here, that bit of grunginess, and my stencil's nice and clean. Earlier in the video, there was a layer that I really didn't like the look of, but I also wasn't worried about it. And here I'm going to add some more to it, and you'll see why I don't sweat it when there's a layer I don't love. So it was stencil first, then paint, and now I'm going to take that one that I don't love, and I'm going to pop that pattern on part of it. And now I'm loving how this one's coming together. Now in cleaning up the stencil, I'm going to get the reverse of that pattern, and I'm going to pop it right onto that solid yellow set of stickers. Now there is a risk to this because if you take too long doing it, the paper or the stickers will stick to the stencil. And as I lift this up, you'll notice how near the end it was starting to stick a bit, so I made it in just under the wire with this one. Now you might be wondering, are gel plates the only way that you can do this? Absolutely not, because this is about just building up some layers, having fun, letting loose on these newly painted stickers with whatever you've got on hand, whatever it is you like to use. And stencils to me are one of those tools that are like a paintbrush. There are an unlimited number of ways that you can use them. What you're seeing here in this video is just the tip of the iceberg. And if you're curious about more ways to use your stencil, different art supplies that you can use them with, then check out my workshop, The Joy of Stenciling. Well, this stencil, it's not big enough to cover the entire thing of stickers, and I want it to. But since this is a repeating pattern, I can simply line up that edge of it there over the other pattern that was already stenciled, and then stencil away. Everything will be perfectly lined up. Now I'm getting a little bit of a looser vibe to this stenciling because I'm going side to side, which means a little bit of paint is running underneath it because I really want that loose, that imperfect look for this. But I also want the pattern to go all the way over the edges, and all I have to do is line that stencil back up again and keep on stenciling. And that gives you a lot of flexibility because if you want to do a small area, the stencil's great for that. And if you want to do a larger area with that pattern and repeat it over and over again, you can do any size that you want. The sky's the limit. So once I've got a stencil layer added to all of these stickers, then I'm going to start making some marks on top of them. And what I'm going to be using are watercolor crayons. Now, I'm just going to scribble in some places. I'm going to have some fun. This is not a deep thought exercise for me. This is just a let loose and make some marks. Now with the play, I actually was playing creating these things from start to finish for about 2.5 hours. And this video is a highlight video for you. So you've got the idea of the process so that if you happen to have some old stickers lying around, then you know a way that you can add a little more color and fun to them. And if you don't have some old stickers that you want to do this to, guess what? All of these techniques will work on a piece of paper as well. All right, so now with this one, I've got those words on there and I wanted to add a little more color to it. So I just grabbed a paint pen and I'm tracing over the words very, very loosely. Of course, I could do it precisely, but that doesn't bring me joy, so I'm not going to do that. As I'm doing this, I'm not thinking about where each individual sticker is. I am just having fun, adding some lines, some marks wherever I feel like it, and it's going to be a little bit of serendipity where it turns out the actual stickers are. I like that little bit of serendipity coming into it. But of course, if that's something you're not comfortable with or that you don't want to do it that way, guess what? We're playing with art supplies here. You can do it in whichever way suits you. Now, looking back, I really liked it at the blue, and once I started bringing in the green, I'm like, I don't know if I like it as much. But here's the thing. It's not even going to look like this once I start pulling the stickers up, and you'll see what I mean at the end of the video when I show you how they come off of there. I absolutely love adding words to things, and I've stenciled some words earlier, and now I'm going to do a little bit of journaling here on top of this one. Now what I'm doing, I'm actually thinking things, I'm actually writing real words, only I can't read them. So if you feel like you can't read what I'm writing, don't worry, neither can I. Because it's just about adding a few thoughts to it, getting some feelings out, and also adding that hint of text to things. And I'm going right over the pattern that was there, and I'm using a fountain pen for a very specific reason. And that is, they can take a lot of abuse. If I get stuff gummed up on the nib, I just wipe it off with a tissue or a towel or something like that, and then it is back to writing. Now that you've seen the process for these, let's take a peek at some of the finished ones. One of the big things I wondered about was how easy it would be to remove the stickers after they've had the paint and layers of other things on them. I kind of wondered if they'd have crisp, neat edges or if they would have bits of torn paint kind of thing. And they actually came up pretty cleanly most of the time. Now in this one, I don't expect to actually read the words when I lift up the sticker. It's just going to have those little bits of letters and text here and there, but it wasn't meant to be read necessarily. Oh, and see that little bit of paint there? Yep, that was uneven. I just pulled it off with my finger and it's good to go. One of the treats of this is seeing how a pattern changes when you isolate just part of it. So by pulling up that sticker, you're isolating part of that design. Now there's been something that's been the same about every sticker page that I've grabbed from so far, and that is it still had that sticker paper behind it. Here on this one, on the green one, I'd pulled that excess sticker paper off before I did the painting. And what I found on those is they're more likely to have a jagged edge. There's going to be that uneven bit of paint around the edges of it. You can see just a little touch of that green there. If the paper is removed, I got more of those. Now, these, by the way, are not a hard thing to fix. If I just kind of rub my hands around there, that smooths it right down and it's back to having a nice crisp edge. So next time I do this, I'm going to skip the step of pulling off any of the background or the excess or the surrounding paper on the sticker and just leave the sticker as the complete paper there when I'm adding the paint. Because it just didn't seem to make a big difference either way, and I'd love to save that time and save myself a step. All right, so I'm looking for that one that I didn't really like at one point, and that is this one when I put the blue on it and then the green around it. Well, I kept adding more and more layers to it, and when I pull one of the stickers off here, it has a completely different vibe to me than what it does when it's on that full sheet. And again, that's the serendipity of this. I am actually so excited to use these stickers that I have not been excited to use in almost 15 years now. Now you might be wondering, what am I going to do with these stickers now that I'm excited about them again? Well, I'm going to start an art journal page with them. I've got a little bit of an idea bubbling around in my head. And as soon as I get that page done and the video done, you bet I'm going to be sharing it here. So hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as I've got it out. Now this sheet of stickers, this one did not have the backing paper on it. So that means when I lift the sticker up, it's probably going to have a jagged edge around it. And sure enough, with this one, when I pull it up, it does have that. It's got a whole bunch of that red around it. Now before you saw me smooth it out, but this time I'm not going to. So if you want a more uneven edge to it, that's the way to do it. Now I've used old cardstock stickers to do this on, but guess what? If you don't have those, another thing that you can use are address labels. You know the labels that you run through a printer? Those are basically stickers and you can definitely paint on top of those. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've had fun, if you've enjoyed yourself, I'd so appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. And of course, if you know of somebody that you think would enjoy this video, share it with them so they can join in the fun too. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.